Hi, I'm Rosemary Rung, and welcome to the inaugural show of Discover Merrimack. This series is going to highlight some of the great things going on in our town, those hidden treasures that most people don't even know about. And today I'm so happy to have our first show focus on little free libraries. And I'm welcoming Angie Merrill, who started one at Horse Hill Nature Preserve. Welcome, Angie.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
This is so exciting. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Thanks. Can you just tell us how you got involved with this?
Yeah, I have had a love for books for as long as I can remember, and I've seen the little free libraries around town. And so several years ago, I kind of thought maybe I would love to have one, but my house isn't the right place to have one, so I didn't really know what to do. So I would kind of think maybe I'd love one, and then I'd put it out of my mind. And then the pandemic hit, and our family started going to Horse Hill Nature Preserve for walks. And the next time I had the idea of the library, I thought that would actually be a really cool place. It would be meaningful because it really got us out of the house during the pandemic. So my company lets us have time every year towards community service. So that was the year that I picked, and I decided I'm going to do this. And so I just decided that I was going to build the library and start stocking it with books for anybody in the community.
That's great. And when you were saying how you notice them around town, I have too. In fact, there's one on Glenwood Drive, and it was started by a boy, M.J. Gagnon, and his grandfather. And they got the plans for it and built it, and they keep it stocked. And then when news of this show came out, a resident reached out and sent me a picture of the one she has on Belmont Drive. So they all look kind of similar.
Yep.
And can you talk more about that? Like, is there like a standard to do these? Like, how did you actually get it installed?
Yeah. For me, I did a lot of research online. There is Facebook pages and Instagram accounts for Little Free Library. I did a lot of searching on Pinterest, trying to see what worked and what I wanted mine to be. I've seen some made out of hollowed out trees and old refrigerators and a wagon that they would roll out for the day and then roll back. So it's really each person's own idea of what they want it to be. For me, I just wanted something simple, knowing that I would be the one that would have to help keep it stocked. So I didn't want a giant library. So for mine, I just decided roughly the size I wanted, and I looked at pictures online and said, this is kind of the vibe that I want. I just wanted a little house. And so I kind of came up with the idea first, but before I started building, I reached out to Horse Hill Nature Preserve and got connected with their the Conservative Council, and they had a meeting, and I got to go on the meeting and pitch and present my idea to them. And then it turned into I needed to pitch to the town council. So I did that. I also spoke with Yvette at the library. And once everybody approved and was on board, then I started really coming up with the design. I did all the measurements and figured out everything that I need and made several trips to Home Depot and Lowe's. And then my husband and I, we just started building it. My kids helped out. And then once I had everything together, we just put it in the ground in June of 2021. So it took a lot of time to figure out what I would want it to be and how I kind of wanted it to look. But really for me, it was a lot of just researching online to see what else was out there, what I could steal from one idea and kind of make it my own. So.
Now, is there a national registration list of where these little libraries are?
Yeah, there is a global organization called the Little Free Library. It's a nonprofit organization, but you don't have to register your library with them. So anybody can have a library anywhere as long as they've gone through, like mine, I had to go through the councils to get their approval, but they could have one anywhere. So if you do go through the organization, you can register it with the Little Free Library organization, and they will give you an actual plaque, which some Little Free Libraries, you'll notice, have a plaque with their own charter number. That means they've registered it through the organization. With that, you can also add your library to the global list of libraries. There's an app that has locations where you can search wherever you are, and it will tell you all of the registered libraries. And again, there's many others that aren't registered, but you can go there and you can see any that are registered and go to any one. You can check in like you're checking in for on Facebook or Instagram. You can check in with the library. So the organization kind of helps keep that all organized, gives people a place to go to get all resources and information. If you do register with the organization, you get some added benefits that you wouldn't get if you had just built it on your own. But the organization itself just released some information. They said that there's almost 160,000 registered Little Free Libraries globally.
Wow.
So it's a really cool thing that they're doing. They help to really push the idea of reading and community, which is what I loved about it.
That's great.
Yeah.
How many, how would you describe the usage of the one at Horse Hill Nature Preserve? Do you feel like you have to replenish it every week, or?
I try to stop by once a week, but with so much going on, sometimes it's every 2 to 3. We're kind of heading into the time of year where it slows down as far as people taking books, but the last several times I've gone, it's been so jam-packed with people donating books that you almost couldn't see what's there. So I've been pulling books out to make it a little bit more manageable for people to see. And then I have a stash in my car that every time I stop by, I just kind of shift things around. So I would say heading into from now till about April, when less people are using the trails at Horse Hill, it becomes a little bit more less busy. You'll get some people every now and then. May until about August, I can't keep up. I'll go every week and it will be almost empty, or a couple books here and there. So which is great, because people are getting books in the community, but it's harder when people aren't. The premise is give a book, take a book. So when people aren't necessarily giving a book back, then it sometimes is hard to keep it replenished. But that's where I try to aim for every once a week, every 2 weeks or so to check in.
Are there some genres that are more popular than others, or children's books? Do you stock it with children's books too? I
do. I usually keep one side of children's books and the other side of a adult or teenage, young adult type books. Kids books go fairly well. I try to keep them on maybe the type of season or holiday. So I just had a large number of winter, Thanksgiving, Christmas books that were in there. So those kids books go quite well. I would say nonfiction books do really well. Fiction as well, depending on the topic. I tried for a while when I first had it running to stock it with nature books, but that's such a niche group of books that it just became too hard. So, and I just wanted anybody in the community to feel like they could put anything in there. It didn't have to be about walking trails or anything specific. So it kind of depends. I would say most things go well. If I notice a book that's been in there, or several books that have been in there the last several times that I've gone over, I'll pull that book and put something else in there, and then maybe next month I'll put that book back and it will go within the week. So it really depends, I guess, on who's walking the trails, who knows the library is there and is stopping by, and what they're in the mood for. So,
and how do you get the books that you use to replenish it?
When I first started the library, a lot of it was my own personal stock that I was just needed to get rid of. Either we'd read them all, or my kids were too old for them. So I had quite a bit of books. That at the library helped give me a couple to get me started as well. So that was a big help when I first started. Now I tend to do the Merrimack Library book sales. And usually, if I go for my own personal reading, I'll go and take my time and look. But usually the last hour or two of the second day, they'll bring a bag for $5, and I'll just bring bags or boxes, and I'll just fill a little bit of everything on what they have, and kids books, adult cookbooks, whatever I think looks interesting. And that's usually how I do it. And it's funny because, they always say don't judge a book by its cover, but in that one I'm literally judging if I think it looks interesting, and I'll grab it and throw it in the bag. And so, I'll get 3 or 4 bags and use that as my stock for the next, month, 2 months, however long it takes. But that's the majority of it.
Well, I was so happy because when I was coming here, I passed the library, and they're having their book sale on January 21st. And library book sales are just a happy place for me because I do the same thing. I'll just spend so much time going through it and picking out books I want. And then the second day, when it's, a bag for $5, you can't beat that.
No, you can't.
In fact, some of these books I brought, I want you to take back with you, Angie. So use them for your stock.
I would love to. Thank you.
There's a mix of, books that my grandsons don't read anymore and whatever. But I was really pleased because I learned that a Brownie troupe in Merrimack had actually used as one of their community projects a book collection to distribute to little free libraries. So it was great to see that community involvement. Especially
cool.
with the Girl Scouts, because Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, they're a great resource in Merrimack.
That's very
I'll
cool.
probably have to have a show about them in the future,
go.
one of the treasures of Merrimack. But so, we talked about the different kinds of books and, how often people take them. Do you think your experience with the Little Free Library at Horse Hill is probably the same as a neighborhood Little Free Library? Do you ever do work with anybody that has other free libraries?
I don't. I haven't. I would welcome the opportunity if anybody locally wants to get together and chat. That would be so fun. I don't know. For me, I don't. I did a post on Facebook once I started my library, just to let everybody know that it was there. And then I did one other post at the year mark to say, almost 500 books have gone through my library at Horse Hill in a year. Thank you. So I don't know. I can see there being maybe a little bit more books through mine because people are there to go on the trails, and maybe they're just grabbing a book as they're finishing up their walk or their ride. I'm not sure. What I think would be cool, and I think that I'm missing, is at a neighborhood Little Free Library, if someone has it outside their home, they could peek out the window and see someone taking a book or looking through books. And I don't have that opportunity because I don't live right there next to Horse Hill. So I know people are taking books and borrowing books, but I've never actually seen anybody at my library. So I think, having it outside your home or near your home or a place where you frequent more, you might get less traffic, less people borrowing, but you might have more interactions with those people in your community, which I think would be really cool. So,
yeah, the neighborhood little libraries are wonderful too, because I've seen one on Glenwood Lane actually where people were just walking, just taking a neighborhood stroll and stopped in, and I thought that was great. Have you had any problems with the Little Free Library? Any vandalism? I hope not. But
about 3 weeks after I had initially put mine up, the glass is plexiglass on the front of mine. It was shattered, and there were some, pavement rock, tar rocks inside. So I don't know for sure that someone had thrown it in there. And nothing has happened since. So I would like to think maybe it got kicked up from a tire or something. But no, I haven't had anything. I have checked every time I go. I look around the outside, and nobody's marked it up or anything like that. I just recently started a Instagram page for my library that I plan to put a little note sticker on the library. So in case something happens and I'm not there, or in case anybody has questions on the library, they can at least contact me, because right now there's no real way to contact me. So hopefully it continues where there's no vandalism. I had that that one initial, but I'm hoping it was just a fluke and not someone trying to do anything on purpose.
Yeah, it could have been a rock being thrown up. You
yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
Though it's wonderful. So with the books that you have you had any like feedback from people? You said that you don't have the opportunity to see people using it, but have you gotten any feedback or hearing people taking books from there that have really enjoyed having that opportunity?
I have. When I did my Facebook post after a year, it was really a thank you to the community. Thanks for indulging my little hobby. And that I had seen so many books come through, and I mentioned that I know you're using it, but I've never seen anybody. And I had so many people post, we love that library, we use it all the time, I just donated last week, or we just grabbed books. So it was cool to see that people knew the library and they were using it. And then I've been at events with my kids, and you talk to the parents, and where are you in Merrimack? We're here, and Horse Hill is a reference that people use. Well, do you know where Horse Hill is? We're just down the road. So I always say, actually, I do know where Horse Hill. I don't know if you've seen it, but I own the library that's there, and we love that library. So it's cool when you do get to hear and talk with people. Like I said, I just don't get to see it on a regular basis, but I know they're using it. So.
Oh, it's just wonderful to hear these stories, Angie, because it's such a good community resource, and it brings people together, and it's wonderful that reading does that.
Yes.
And you mentioned earlier your incentive was really around your inspiration was around the pandemic. And I've noticed I've been reading a lot, and we were talking before the taping how we both have reading goals.
Yeah.
So my goal is a book a week. So, and I did this a few years ago, and I got to June before I just couldn't keep up. But one of the books I read, the first book I read this year was, I'm going to show it up, it's The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, and it's translated from French, but it's a story about a man who had a very debilitating stroke that left him with, it was called locked-in syndrome, where he was aware of anything, but he couldn't move his body. And it was just a captivating book. And that's the great thing about books, is it takes you to a place, it educates you about things that you never knew about before. And so it's wonderful that so many people are getting into that experience. And I think when adults read, and especially when children watch them, and it really becomes recognized as something really enjoyable. So I want to thank you so much for doing that. And I also want to just show a list of the little libraries in Merrimack that are registered. It's not a complete list. People may see other little free libraries around town beyond this list. But you can see many are in public locations. We've mentioned Horse Hill, Kids Cove, Merrimack High School, St. James Church, Wasserman Park by the Norma French Playground. And then we've got somewhere on streets. And what I think is kind of interesting is the one at 9 Craig Drive is really one that was started by Yvette Kauser, who is the library director. So it's kind of interesting a librarian has her own library. So I want to encourage everyone to stop at one of these little libraries and grab a book. And if you've got a book, you can share it.
Yep.
And is there anything else you want to say?
No,
Angie?
I know that for those libraries, I know the one at Wasserman Park and the Kids Cove are run through the library, the Friends organization there, I believe. So that's just a cool thing that they're also doing. But no, this has been great. Any reason that I have to talk about books and my library is always welcome. So I truly thank you. It's been awesome.
No, well, thank you. And by the way, what's your goal for reading for the year?
This year I have a goal of 75 books.
Wow.
I had the same in 2022, and I just got there with 76. But it sounds like a good goal, and then life happens and you go several weeks without reading, something comes up. But 75 for this year is my goal.
Good for you. Good for you.
We'll see.
All right. Well, good luck. Good luck
to you.
And
So
Angie,
much.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to give you a preview of some of the upcoming Discover Merrimack shows. We are going to interview Sam Saffa, the Sam Saffa from Reed's Ferry Market, and we're going to talk about the history of his store and the humidor. He's got one, if maybe not the only humidor in Merrimack. So we're going to learn about that. And then I'm going to be interviewing the president of, I forget the name, but it's the Model Airplane Club in Merrimack, and really learn about that whole organization. And it's just a very unique and exciting hobby. So if you have any ideas for Discover Merrimack, please let me know. You can either reach me through Merrimack TV, or my email is rung@comcast.net. So I hope you've enjoyed the show and look forward to having you be a regular viewer. Thanks a lot.